The 1964 United States of America 5-cent coin, commonly known as the 1964 Jefferson nickel, holds a significant place in American numismatic history as both a product of its era and a reflection of the nation's mid-20th century economic conditions. This coin, bearing the inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the year 1964, was minted in enormous quantities during a pivotal time in U.S. coinage. Designed by Felix Schlag, the Jefferson nickel has been a cornerstone of American currency since its first issue in 1938, replacing the earlier Buffalo nickel. The obverse side of the coin features a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and principal author of the Declaration of Independence. Schlag's design captures Jefferson's dignified profile with fine detail, accompanied by the words, "In God We Trust," on the left rim and "Liberty 1964," on the right, separated by a small five-pointed star. The reverse side depicts Monticello, Jefferson's iconic Virginia home, a neoclassical structure that symbolizes both his architectural vision and his intellectual legacy. The reverse also bears the inscriptions "E pluribus unum," Latin for "out of many one," Monticello, 5 cents, and United States of America. The 1964 nickel was the last U.S. 5-cent coin to bear a mint mark on the reverse side until 1968, after which mint marks were relocated to the obverse. It was minted at both the Philadelphia no mint mark and Denver D mint mark mints. No nickels were struck at the San Francisco mint that year. The total production was immense, over 2.8 billion pieces combined from both mints, making the 1964 issue the highest mintage year for any Jefferson nickel. This unusually high output was prompted by a coin shortage crisis in the early 1960s caused by public hoarding of silver coins due to rising bullion prices. To address this shortage, the U.S. Mint ramped up production of base metal coins such as the nickel, which, unlike dimes and quarters, contain no silver and thus were less likely to be hoarded. Because of this overproduction, 1,964 nickels are among the most common vintage U.S. coins in circulation today, though uncirculated or proof specimens remain popular with collectors. The United States 5-cent coin of 1979, more commonly known as the Jefferson nickel, represents a continuation of one of the most enduring designs in U.S. coinage history. The 5-cent piece, made primarily of a copper-nickel alloy, has been in circulation since 1866, but the Jefferson design, featuring the nation's third president, Thomas Jefferson, first appeared in 1938. By 1979, this coin had already been circulating for more than 40 years with only minor modifications, making it both a familiar and stable presence in everyday American life. The obverse of the 1979 nickel features a left-facing portrait of Jefferson, designed by Felix Schlag, whose rendering was chosen through a public design competition held in 1938. Around Jefferson's portrait are the inscriptions, "In God We Trust" to the left, "Liberty" to the right, and the date, 1979, placed next to it, often separated by a small star or *. This design layout is highly symbolic. "In God We Trust" expresses the national motto reaffirming the United States' religious and moral values. "Liberty" recalls the founding ideals Jefferson championed, and the date marks the coin's minting year, giving it numismatic and historical context. The reverse side of the 1979 Jefferson nickel depicts Monticello, Jefferson's famous home in Charlottesville, Virginia. The word Monticello is inscribed below the building, while "E pluribus unum," out of many one, appears above, another enduring American motto emphasizing unity and diversity. The denomination 5 cents is centered at the bottom, followed by United States of America. Schlag's design aimed to reflect both Jefferson's intellectual legacy and his architectural interests, as Jefferson personally designed Monticello in the neoclassical style, inspired by ancient Roman architecture. The building's elegant columns, domed roof, and symmetrical structure are faithfully represented in miniature detail on the coin. Over the decades, minor adjustments were made to sharpen lines and improve clarity, especially as coinage technology advanced. However, in 1979, the design remained largely faithful to Schlag's original vision. From a technical standpoint, The 1979 5-cent coin is composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel, bonded together as a homogeneous alloy. It weighs 5.00 grams, has a diameter of 21.21 millimeters, and a plain, smooth edge. Unlike pennies or dimes, the nickel's composition gives it a distinctive silvery color and a high level of durability suitable for long-term circulation. The 1979 nickels were struck at 3 mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D; and San Francisco, S. Circulation strikes came from Philadelphia and Denver, while the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins intended for collectors, featuring a mirror-like finish achieved by polishing the dies and planchets. The presence or absence of a mint mark, located on the reverse to the right of Monticello, helps identify where a coin was struck and can influence its numismatic value. Historically, the year 1979 was an eventful period in American life, marked by economic challenges, inflation, and political shifts under President Jimmy Carter. Though everyday citizens might not have noticed it, the Jefferson nickel quietly reflected a stable element of American identity amid those changing times. Millions were minted that year, and the coin remained an essential component of commerce, used in vending machines, parking meters, and daily transactions across the country. While a 1979 nickel typically holds only face value, 5 cents, in circulated condition, high-grade examples, particularly those with sharp strikes, full steps on Monticello, a detail prized by collectors, or proof versions in pristine condition, can attract modest premiums in the numismatic market. A full steps 1979 P Jefferson nickel, for instance, may be worth several dollars or more depending on its grade and rarity. The phrases "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" on the obverse are not mere decorative elements. They represent core tenets of the nation's philosophy. The inclusion of "In God We Trust," which became standard on U.S. coins during the Civil War era and was formally adopted as the national motto in 1956, serves as a spiritual affirmation woven into everyday commerce. Liberty, equally enduring, connects the coin to Jefferson's authorship of the Declaration of Independence, a document that immortalized the pursuit of freedom and human rights. Together, these inscriptions remind users of the philosophical foundations that underpin the United States. From a design perspective, the Jefferson nickel's visual simplicity and symmetry lend it a timeless quality. Schlag's intent was to honor Jefferson with dignity and restraint, avoiding overly ornate elements. The 1979 version preserves that aesthetic. The United States 5-cent coin of 1985, commonly known as the Jefferson nickel, represents a small but important piece of American monetary history and design evolution. First introduced in 1938 to replace the earlier Buffalo nickel, the Jefferson nickel honors Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, principal author of the Declaration of Independence, and a figure celebrated for his contributions to liberty, democracy, and the founding ideals of the nation. By 1985, this design, created by sculptor Felix Schlag, had been in continuous production for nearly 5 decades, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. Schlag's portrait of Jefferson on the obverse front shows the statesman in left profile, his gaze calm and determined, reflecting the intellectual depth and Enlightenment ideals that shaped his leadership. Above Jefferson's head appears the national motto, "In God We Trust," a phrase first added to U.S. coinage during the Civil War and later mandated across all denominations by law. To the left of Jefferson's portrait, the word "Liberty" appears, followed by the coin's date, 1985, written in clean, sans-serif style. This word placement evokes Jefferson's deep connection to the concept of liberty, a value he championed throughout his life and writings. The inclusion of "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" on the same face of the coin reflects the moral and philosophical balance of faith and freedom upon which the nation was built. On the reverse, back, side of the 1985 nickel, Schlag's original depiction of Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia estate, stands prominently at the center. The classical architecture of Monticello, with its dome, columns, and symmetrical facade, symbolizes Jefferson's intellect, taste for neoclassical design, and his enduring legacy as a statesman architect. Above the building is inscribed, E pluribus unum, Latin for out of many one, a traditional motto of the United States symbolizing national unity. Beneath Monticello are the inscriptions Monticello, 5 cents, and United States of America. Together, these design elements express the unity of America's political, philosophical, and cultural identity. The 1985 issue continued to be struck in copper-nickel composition, a mixture of 75% copper and 25% nickel, with a standard weight of 5.00 grams and a diameter of 21.2 millimeters. Unlike earlier silver alloy coins, the nickel's composition was chosen for durability, resistance to wear, and cost-effectiveness. Its smooth, plain edge distinguishes it from other denominations such as the dime or quarter, which feature reeded edges. In 1985, Jefferson Nickels were produced at two primary U.S. mint facilities, Philadelphia and Denver, identified by the absence or presence of a mint mark D to the right of Monticello on the reverse side. The Philadelphia mint struck no mark coins, while the Denver mint used the D mint mark. The San Francisco Mint did not produce circulation nickels that year, but struck proof coins for collectors, featuring a small S mint mark. Circulation strikes were made in the hundreds of millions, meaning the 1985 nickel is not considered rare in general circulation. However, collectors still seek examples in mint state condition, especially those graded MS 65 or higher, where the coin retains its original luster, sharp details, and lack of wear. Proof specimens, produced with mirror-like surfaces and frosted reliefs, remain popular among numismatists for their aesthetic appeal and precision of strike. Beyond its physical attributes, the 1985 5-cent coin carries significant cultural and symbolic weight. It embodies continuity within America's coinage system, a reflection of national stability amid decades of social and economic change. The inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" together form a succinct statement of American identity, faith, freedom, and unity under democratic principles. During the mid-1980s, the United States was experiencing a period of technological advancement, Cold War tension, and renewed patriotic sentiment. Everyday objects such as coins silently echoed these values through their familiar imagery and mottos. The 1985 nickel circulated in the pockets of millions of Americans, changing hands in small transactions, yet each carried with it a reminder of the enduring legacy of Jefferson's ideals and the nation's mottos of belief and liberty. From a numismatic standpoint, the 1985 Jefferson nickel is noteworthy for its role as a bridge between earlier traditional minting methods and the coming modernization of the late 20th century. Advances in die engraving and quality control in the 1980s meant that coins of this period often exhibited sharper strikes and greater consistency than those of earlier decades. Still, collectors occasionally encounter minor die cracks, double strikes, or off-center errors, which can increase a coin's numismatic interest and market value. Next top. The United States 5-cent coin, commonly called a nickel, has been one of the most familiar pieces of American coinage since its introduction in the mid-19th century. The 1996 P Jefferson nickel continues a long tradition that began in 1938 when the U.S. Mint replaced the Buffalo nickel with a design honoring Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and the principal author of the Declaration of Independence. Design origins and symbolism. The obverse front of the 1996 nickel bears a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson, designed by sculptor Felix Schlag, whose design won a national competition in 1938. Schlag's image portrays Jefferson in a dignified, neoclassical style, emphasizing the intellectual and civic virtues Jefferson represented: democracy, liberty, and reason. To the left of Jefferson's portrait are the words, "In God We Trust," the official national motto of the United States, adopted formally in 1956 but used on coins long before that. To the right appears the word "Liberty," followed by the year 1996 and the mint mark P, signifying that the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The reverse back of the coin depicts Monticello, Jefferson's famous home near Charlottesville, Virginia. The elegant neoclassical architecture of Monticello symbolizes Jefferson's love of symmetry, Enlightenment ideals, and the agrarian democracy he envisioned for America. Below the image of Monticello appear the inscriptions E pluribus unum, Latin for out of many one, Monticello, 5 cents, and United States of America. Physical characteristics. The 1996 P Jefferson nickel, like other nickels of its type, is composed of a copper-nickel alloy, 75% copper and 25% nickel. This gives the coin its characteristic silvery color, durability, and resistance to corrosion. It weighs 5.00 grams, measures 21.2 millimeters in diameter, and has a smooth, plain edge. The coin's metallic composition has remained unchanged since the mid-20th century, except for the wartime years of 1942 to 1945, when nickel was replaced with silver and manganese for military needs. The P Mint mark and mintage. The Philadelphia Mint, denoted by the P Mint mark, produced an enormous number of Jefferson nickels in 1996, over 807 million pieces. This means the 1996 P nickel is common in circulation and easily found in pocket change today. Its high mintage ensures that it has little numismatic, collector, premium unless it is in exceptional condition, such as a proof-like strike, an error coin, or a specimen graded MS, 67 or higher by professional grading services. The Mint mark P itself has an interesting history. Before 1980, most Philadelphia coins had no mint mark at all. Beginning that year, the Mint began including the P on all denominations except the cent. Thus, the 1996 P nickel belongs to a relatively modern era in which all U.S. mints identify their output clearly: P for Philadelphia, D for Denver, S for San Francisco, and W, rarely, for West Point. Inscriptions and their meaning. Every inscription on the coin carries historical and moral weight. In God We Trust first appeared on U.S. coins during the Civil War, expressing national faith during a time of crisis. It has since become a permanent symbol of the nation's spiritual heritage. Liberty represents the founding ideal of the American Republic, the belief that individual freedom is the cornerstone of democracy. Jefferson himself was one of the strongest advocates for liberty, famously writing that all men are created equal and endowed with unalienable rights. E pluribus unum, Latin for out of many one, celebrates the unity of diverse states and peoples forming a single nation. Together, these inscriptions frame the Jefferson nickel not merely as currency, but as a small monument to the ideals of faith, unity, and freedom. Production process and coin details. Each 1996 P nickel began as a blank metal disc, punched from large sheets of copper-nickel alloy. These blanks were then annealed, softened by heat, cleaned, and fed into coining presses at the Philadelphia Mint. Under immense pressure, around 60 tons per strike, the dies impressed Jefferson's portrait and Monticello's image into the metal. After minting, coins were inspected, counted, and packaged into rolls and bags for distribution through the Federal Reserve System. Minor variations can occur during minting, leading to collectible error types such as off-center strikes, die cracks, double dies, and clipped planchets. While most 1996 P nickels are worth face value, error examples can fetch several dollars to hundreds depending on rarity and condition. Collectability and value. In circulated condition, a 1996 P nickel typically holds no premium. It is worth 5 cents. However, uncirculated coins, particularly those graded MS 66 or MS 67, can command higher prices among collectors. For instance, as of recent auction data, a pristine MS 67 full steps, meaning the steps